Hi, welcome to Tootie's Kitchen, where I do kitchen reviews, recipe tips, whole recipes, really anything that makes me happy. Today I decided that I would go ahead and do a little gadget review. It is called the green stripper. By the way, this is Tootie's Kitchen slash dining room today because we're in the middle of moving, so my kitchen's kind of a disaster. So we're kind of directing over this way. But back to the green stripper. I found this in the store, and as a chef for 10 years, you find yourself doing a lot of fresh herbs because it makes dishes a whole lot better than the dried stuff, in my opinion. And it can get really annoying to get a whole bunch of thyme and to have to strip it, or kale. So I decided to get this and to try it. I've never ever tried one. I've always done old school with your fingers or a knife or whatever you could find at the time to make things look easier, paper towel or whatever. So we're gonna try it. I've got some thyme and rosemary and kale because those seem to be the most common things to strip as far as stripping things off the stem. So it comes in a little thing like this, and it gives you directions on the back. And I just got this at Publix, honestly, because now wherever I go, I look for little gadgets, just because my kitchen's going to be full of them, apparently. But it ends up like a little leaf, which is kind of cute, and it's kind of angled, so you can get a good grip on it, which I like because you can grip it, and you don't have to worry about it sliding on your hand, which doesn't seem like a big deal. And if you're just at home doing this, one little herb strip at a time, it's really not a big deal. But if you're doing for like a big party or something, and you need a whole bushel of thyme or rosemary stripped, it could be helpful. So let's do this the way that I would do it normally, which isn't that time consuming, to be honest, but you do always miss some or mess it up. Sometimes you can bruise it, and you don't really want to bruise your herbs. So I just always start at the top and slide, I don't know if you can see this, slide my fingers down it, just like that. So you can't tell, but I flung this across the table, and my herb stick is completely clean except for the top. So then usually I just break off the top, and I have a whole bunch of rosemary. It's starting to smell really good here. I don't know if you can see that, but there you go. So that's how I would do the rosemary, which smells very good, by the way. So I'm guessing you want to do like the smallest hole. I don't know if you can see those holes, but you want to do the smallest hole. And it says to pull, which when you're stripping herbs by yourself, you want to go the opposite direction of the herbs because it makes logical sense to do that. There's really no other way. If you go this direction, you're not going to get a whole lot out of it, okay? But if you go this direction, you're going to pull a lot off the stem. So this wants you to go with it. So we're going to try it the way that it says and see what happens. So I put it in the smallest hole, and yikes. Okay, well, this is a clean stem, so that's good. But now I've got a stem stuck. Okay, so let's pull it out. That's actually not horrible because when I pulled it out, I have about the same amount as I would in the other one that I did manually. And I've still just got the top like you would if you did it yourself. Sorry, my thing is falling. So then you just break that off and continue on your little way. I'm going to do another one with a little bit of a bigger hole. Well, I don't know. See, the bigger ones, hey, that's kind of cool actually that I did that right. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of collected itself all up in that thing. If you were a really creative person, you could do something with that. My stem is pretty clean. I left one little sprig there, but I can take care of that. So then I should be able to clump this all, and it loose leaves onto my hand. That actually worked out pretty good. If I had to do a whole bunch of rosemary, I would be down with this, honestly. You just have to get the right hole. So like if you do too big of a hole, it doesn't get a grip on it, and then you're left with still a lot. So I guess it's just doing it a whole bunch of times and figuring out what exactly you want. So there's enough of the rosemary, the thyme, the itty bitty sprig of thyme. There's a kind of a difference between the two sticks there. So thyme, like everything else, you start from the top manually and you work your way down. What I don't like about thyme doing it with just my fingers is these are very, very brittle sticks. So if you're not careful, well, I didn't there, of course I didn't there, but if you're not careful, you tend to break the stick and then you lose your grip. And not that that's the end of the world, but again, if you're doing a whole bunch of this, it could become a pain in the butt. So let's try it. Let's see, I guess, oh, that's too small. So let's do the second one. And these are much smaller, so I don't know if they're gonna collect. They kind of did for a second. And honestly, it left a lot of the time, but I'm wondering if I do it again. I'll get to my point here in a second. I'm wondering if I do it again on the smaller, if it will get all that. So my point, well, it flung it. My point is that when you do thyme by hand, you take, I'm trying to get you to see this. So this is the one I did by hand. You take all those little sticks with you and they end up in your food, which they cook out and it's not the end of the world. But this one left them. So that's really nice. You get more of the leafy green off of this one and less of the stick. Like, see, I would have to go back if I was in a restaurant that really cared about it. I have to go back and take those leaves off that stick because all you want is the herb. And you don't really want to chop these herbs up because you're going to bruise them again. And if you're really looking for presentation, you want your herbs to look as fresh as possible. And when you bruise them and then cook them, they're going to kind of they're going to lose some of their color. And you don't really want that. You want the fresh herbs for their color and their taste. If you do dried herbs, you might as well just, taste is great, but it kind of loses some of its pretty color. So that's my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. So far, this is actually impressing me. I didn't think that this was going to be any better than your fingers. But for the thyme, I really like it because it kept all those little sticks, but you got, I would say 98% of the herbs off. And I don't have to go back and do those little sticks that kind of are just a pain in the butt. So, kale. Let's move on to kale. This one is going to be interesting. I'm making a mess. We're going to put this stuff, I've got a little plate over here we're going to put it all on. So we have a fresh thing to start with. So I don't know if any of you have ever made fresh kale or dealt with fresh kale. You can do about 100,000 things with kale. But if you get it in fresh and you want to cook it, you want to get rid of that vein that goes all the way through and then becomes its stalk, okay? Which, if you're doing it manually, it's not that big of a deal. You just peel it. Woohoo. So I'm peeling off of here. I have a knife. Some people take their knife and they go just down the stem, just like I did there. So you can see I just cut down the stem. It's a pretty effective way to do it. Doing it with your hands is also possible, but you're not going to get such a clean look. Like this is a very clean cut. I don't know if you can see that or not, but this one is not. It's very torn and rigid, which if you're just putting it in a stock or a soup, not that big of a deal. But again, if you're going for presentation, you want it to look exact and precise, and just like all the other plates that you put out, or if you're doing a dinner and you want this for like a backing on something or garnish, then you want the clean, pretty cut. So we're gonna actually take this one because it's already halfway done, and we're gonna, I don't even know if there's a hole. Oh, there is, look at that, the hole is big enough. That's kind of cool. We're gonna go one hole down actually. We're gonna see how this does. I'm really nervous about this one. No, we're not, we're gonna stay with that one because it didn't want to fit. All right, I'm nervous about this one because that's what I was afraid of. I was afraid as you go up it, it's not gonna be big enough because it curves, right? It just always curves. So that is not bad. It did all that by itself. I didn't cut it. So it actually pulled all the way up to the very top, which is pretty nice because it's hard to do that with a knife. You can do it, but sometimes you lose some of the product. And if you care about that kind of thing, then, so it actually pulled all the way up to the top, which is, I find really neat. Whether you do or not, I don't know, but I do. So that worked out very well, better than I thought. So we're gonna do this other one, which is actually broken. I probably should have practiced on the broken one, but this is a good real life test to see how it works when things are not perfect from the store. So we're gonna go one more down, maybe 2 down. This is a 10, nope, 2 is not gonna happen. All right, so back up the stem, and it broke on me because it was broke. And now I've lost the stem. I don't know if it will let me, there we go. So it broke, but I got it back right there. So we're back through the hole again. And okay, we're done. One very long destemmed piece of kale. Hey. So I would say that this was worth I don't even know how much I spent on it. I think it was like $2 at the store, honestly. If I was like in a kitchen again and my chef brought me a 50-pound box of kale and was like, hey, destem this, I would want this, honestly. Because it makes again, if you're just gonna cut this up, you probably don't really care. But if you want this for presentation, different salads, things like that, it's really nice to have that clean cut and it go all the way through the top. This like went all the way to the top, and I can't do that with a knife without sitting here for a while with my little knife and trying to get as close as I can to that stem. So yeah, I would say that this is gonna stay out of a drawer and it's gonna find a nice new home where I can get to it when I want it and I can use it. So, if you ever see it and you think, hey, let's try this and see what happens, I would say go for it. It's $2. It works actually a lot better than I thought that it would. It's probably safer than a knife. So if you've got kids who you want like to help you cook or things like that, this would be a really cool tool for them to play with and for you to play with. Come on, we can have fun with our kitchen utensils too. So the green stripper is what it's called by Vibe. I'll show it to you again. There you go. And I approve of it. So thank you for visiting Tootie's Kitchen. We're gonna do another product review, and I actually have a cooking example coming up soon on my channel, so that will be really fun. And thanks for stopping by to visit, and I hope you have a good night.